episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Well, they are wrapping up the General Assembly session for 2024. And as usual, there were some things that they were introducing that are problematic. You know what, guys? I know that I say this, and you guys are probably tired of me saying it, but I don't see enough people getting involved. I see a lot of people having questions about what the party is doing. I get that all the time. There's not one person. So if you're in my inbox and you know you're in my, don't take it personally. You're not the only one. But let me say something. Regina Moore gave me some great advice once. She's from Bloomington. She's the DWC chair. And she said, you know, as Democrats, there's three phases of who Democrats are, right? Democrats, you're the candidate. Those are Democrats, right? That's one area. They're the ones running for office. Then you have the party people. Those are the Democrats, right? But then the other section of Democrats are the everyday rank and file folks that are going to get out and vote. You're Democrats too. And so when you're asking yourself or asking me or asking anyone, what are the Democrats doing about this, that, and the other? I need you to look in the mirror and ask yourself, what am I doing? I need you to ask yourself, what am I doing? Because we can't do it without you. If we're going to change Indiana and make it a better place for everyone to live, then you have got to, if you're outraged about something, then I need you to get involved. Use that energy, your time, talent, and treasure. So please, guys, if you feel in a certain way about something that you've seen or something you've heard, get involved. Help a candidate, help the party, but more importantly, help yourself and your community. All right, so let me get to my rant. I got a couple today. Chalkbeat reports Indiana lawmakers have cut a proposal that would have permitted chaplains to work in public schools, part of a compromise on a bill allowing students to leave school for religious instruction at their parents' request. They returned House Bill 1137 to its original form, which requires principals to allow students to attend off-campus religious instruction if parents request it. Indiana law currently leaves the decision to the principal's discretion. The controversial language in House Bill 1137 would have allowed chaplains to serve as counselors, offering only secular support to students unless the student's parent gave permission for non-secular guidance. Proponents said it would put willing members of the community in schools to counsel students on a volunteer or paid basis. But critics said the proposal would have violated the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment, which forbids the government from establishing a religion or favoring one religion over another. Some also said that chaplains didn't necessarily have the training to work in schools. House Bill 1137 briefly featured an amendment to recognize excellent civics education, which was later removed by Senate lawmakers. They instead added a provision to allow chaplains to serve in public schools after their bill contained the language. Senate Bill 50 failed to move forward in the House. Both chambers must now accept the conference committee's report. If they don't, the bill dies. And from what I understand, that bill is dead. Guys, listen. I understand that you believe the chaplains are the most amazing people on earth. I know you do. I also know you probably think imams are most amazing people on earth, don't you? Imams? Don't you think imams should be able to go in schools and talk to people? You know, whether they're Shiite or Sunni? Yes? No? Oh, wait, but with the rabbi, right? Rabbis. See, this is what happens when you allow people to use their religion to set policy. We saw it in Alabama. And of course, we've been seeing it in Indiana. Nobody ever really talks about Indiana. They fly over us because they call the elections for Republicans 1 minute after the polling's closed in the Eastern time zone. They don't even wait for the Central time zone to close. But guys, this was a bad bill all the way around. They are trying to regulate what your children think. They always were saying us gay folks were trying to indoctrinate children. I don't know what says indoctrination more than putting a chaplain in a school. And considering how the Catholic Church has been having the issues that they've been having, and how the Southern Baptist Conference was having the issues that they were having with people being inappropriate with children, The fact that these people wouldn't have had any training or education on how to serve children in schools, it was already a bad deal. So I'm glad that this bill is dead and people are free from religion in schools. The Indianapolis Business Journal reports Republican House lawmakers are trying to resurrect controversial bill language that would change the definition of toxic PFAS chemicals known as forever chemicals to exempt those that Hoosier manufacturers want to keep using. House Bill 1399 cleared the House chamber last month in a 64-30 party line vote, but was subsequently abandoned by the Senate Environmental Affairs Committee over concerns that it was too proactive. But the same PFAS provisions came back in a 90-second Wednesday morning conference committee where GOP House lawmakers said they want to amend the language into House Bill 1329, originally a bill to block local health departments from requiring inspections of residential septic tanks upon the sale of property. Representative Jim Pressel of Rolling Prairie, who authored House Bill 1329, gave few details on the move. Meanwhile, on Wednesday, a separate septic system bill additionally got final approval from the House 74-19 and now heads to the governor. House Bill 1352, authored by Bob Morris of Fort Wayne, further limits when local governments can inspect a system. Moore said the bill intends to clean up and clarify existing state policy, but critics worry that fewer inspections could increase the number of failing septic systems in Indiana, threatening local communities and their water sources. He said the septic system language in the underlying bill remains unchanged and noted one other addition to the bill that requires the membership of the Board of Directors of the Indiana Stadium and Convention Building Authority for 7 members to 3 members. That provision was originally part of Senate Bill 252. No senators were present as Pressel explained to the conference committee report. Senator Ronnie Pohl entered the room as the short meeting adjourned. When asked why no senators were present, Pressel said only that it would be hard to explain what happens in that Senate. That's been my experience. No conference committee report with final bill language has been posted, so it is unclear if Senate Republicans will accept the move. Both the House and the Senate still have to vote on any final compromise. Why is this legislature advancing a bill that will allow companies to lie to our residents about what is in their shampoo, health products, clothes, and other items? It's unconscionable. Hoosiers deserve the truth. They do not deserve this body deciding to dismiss facts and science on their behalf, said Senator Shelley Yoder of Bloomington in a Wednesday statement. Now, anyone trying to be more conscientious about the items they use in our state will have to navigate a terrain of lies greenlit by the law. Everything about this underhanded process and dangerous language is immoral. Senator Rick Niemeyer of Lowell, who chairs the Senate Environmental Affairs Committee, said last week that he viewed the original PFAS bill as unnecessary because there have been no proposals to change Indiana's existing rules. Niemeyer noted, too, that PFAS regulations proposals must go through the state's Environmental Rules Board, which he said would take a minimum of 18 months. It gives plenty of time on this language if next session or over the summer or something, looks like it's happening, we need to do something. So, guys, there was a whole lot in there, and I did that on purpose because you have Republicans saying, one, we don't care what poisonous carcinogens are in the items that you use, nor do we care that you know about it, one. Two, we're going to have less inspections on your septic tanks, and we're going to have not only going to require an inspection if you buy a house, so you could buy a lemon septic tank, a septic system. But here's the deal, and then on top of that, you did it without any other senators present. So it was underhanded on top of all of that. This is what they do when they have a simple majority. They can get away with anything that they want to get away with because we don't have the votes in the state house to prevent any of the nonsense that they want to do. And because we haven't willingly got involved and decided to engage on a more stringent level, these things will continue to happen. Now, I just want you to think about something for a minute. Has anyone ever had to replace their septic system before, their septic tanks? Have you ever seen somebody with their whole front yard all dug up because it's all a mess? This is what they're going to do to y'all. And you will have no recourse because it's law. Now, the question you need to be asking is, why would they pass such a bill? Who is going to directly benefit from not having increased inspections? Who? Who is going to benefit by not alerting you about what chemicals are in the products that you use? It's an election season, y'all, and everybody has to file a finance report. Who is donating to the authors of these bills? What kickbacks are they getting? This is something y'all need to do. Y'all need to find out, because these folks have no problem with putting your health and your property in jeopardy. They have no problem whatsoever. I'm not making this stuff up. This is not hyperbole. These are bills that are going through your Indiana General Assembly. And because y'all work during the day and y'all not like me, y'all can't sit around and watch the General Assembly session and all the committee meetings. You don't always know what's going on. But here's an opportunity for you to stay abreast of the issues that are happening. Call your senators and ask them, what's with that septic tank bill? And somebody tell me what the PFAS thing is. You ain't got to know all the details, but call somebody and talk to them and say, I don't want my septic system being jeopardized, and I don't want hazardous, poisonous materials, and I don't know about it. And I would like some transparency, please. Transparency. That's what we need. And as long as they have that supermajority, they will get away with doing whatever they want to do the way they want to do it. Guys, I need you to hear me. You see, there's only two now. We're down to two. You've got one person who's 80-something years old. He's old Democrat. And then you got an old Republican who wants to overthrow the government and become a dictator. These are the times we are living in. These are the times that we're living in. The hypocrisy is real. If Jim Banks talks about somebody losing their life one more time and he voted against any of the anti-lynching bills, come now. No, we don't want to see anyone unnecessarily lose their life to violence or any other kind of way. But if you're going to be, if you're going to have selective outrage, sometimes have it for the black folk. Oh no, wait a minute, never mind. He not going to do that. Guys, I've been ranting since 2017, and never more have my rants meant more to us than they do now. And as the session begins to wrap up, I will be talking about more things that are happening in the federal government because session will be done. But I will also be keeping an eye out on all of our statewide candidates who run statewide candidates who are running for office, and making sure that we understand what they're saying and what they stand for. And we will hold them accountable at the ballot box. 2024 is our year to make real change in Indiana. We just got to show up. That's my rant. Today's show is brought to you by Bohm's Unique Boutique. Click on the QR code. And for all Turn Left listeners, you can get a 10% discount on your order by using the code Democrat. Be sure to visit www.bohmsuniqueboutique.com. Democrats, are you looking for an affordable content creation option? If so, look no further than Black Pearl IT Solutions and Black Pearl Studios. Indiana's own Dana Black is providing many of the communication wraparound services any Democratic organization needs. No matter the size of the budget, Indiana's own has you covered. Just scan the QR code or visit www.blackpearl_its.com. All right. Boy, I have to cool off after my rant sometimes because I get a little heated. And I got this hat on today, so I know I'm over here smoking. Guys, I am so excited. I got a couple of first-time guests on the show tonight. Man, and I love it that they stepped up and decided to put their names on the ballot. First up, running in House District 58, who wants to unseat some of those GOP people, Sandy James. Sandy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
And you know what? All politics are local. And I love talking to my local candidates because that's how we build our bench. Running for Tippecanoe County Council at large, Ben Carson. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, Ben, before I get started, I got to do it because everybody probably does it. So
I know what's coming.
How does it feel to have a name like Ben Carson?
I think I went through a period of liking it a lot when I was much younger, since he has a incredible track record as a brain surgeon. And then I went through a period of not liking it as much and everybody cracking jokes about it. And then I think I've reached the acceptance stage, and now I'm back to, just running with it. And maybe one day I can become the more well-known Ben Carson between the two.
I love it. See, that is a wonderful outtake. But see, Sandy, every time I see your name, I just want to sing Sandra Dee from Grease. How you feel?
Yes. Grease came out when I was in high school. Trust me, I've heard it a lot. My maiden name began with a D, so that's a song I've heard many times.
Love it. Listen, I'm going to join the fun. My name is Dana. There was a rapper in the 80s. His name was Dana Dane. People forgot my name was Dana Black, and they started calling me Dana Dane. I'm there with y'all. Guys, was there anything in my rant that you wanted to comment on? I wanted to give you a chance to jump in.
Well, okay. I'm an educator. I've been at Greenwood High School just south of Indianapolis for 30 years. And when I heard about the idea of having religious counselors come in and try to act as if they were school academic counselors, it made me bristle. I was very upset. Our counselors are educated and trained in ways to help our students. And there is no training that a chaplain goes through that can replace what our counselors do. And then there's such a variety of religions that these students practice. How can you possibly have somebody that is targeting every religion? And, as a parent, I would have been very upset if somebody from another religion was trying to counsel my children. It just seemed that it was, to me, just an intense violation of church and state. It really angered me.
Yeah. Ben?
Yeah, I think Sandy's hitting the nail on the head there. Ultimately, it's just a no-brainer. I think that it's a obvious violation of the First Amendment. I think it's interesting how the party of small government has started to make the Democrats look like the party of small government sometimes. So it seems very, very obvious. And then on the second issue with the PFAS, forever chemicals that you were talking about, that one's potentially even more bewildering to me. Indiana's the only state in the entire country who's considering doing something like this. It's the most obvious anti-science way of analyzing it. And like you said, you have to wonder why they're doing this, and it can have very disastrous effects. This one can potentially affect my community, my constituents. Little Deer Creek, that is very close to the Wabash, has already had very high chemical testing levels for these same kind of things. And I guess they think if they define them differently, then they don't exist anymore. But like the name says, they're going to be there forever. So this is not a good bill.
Well, and sliding it into a bill that has to do with septic tanks, it just seems like there's some underlying reason that they're pushing so hard to get this particular chemical allowed. And I'm with you, Dane. I'd kind of like to know who's really pushing this hard and why.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what, guys? We've seen a lot of anti-science legislation this year, anti-thought-provoking legislation. I mean, I know that we don't ever want to make anyone feel like they cannot run for office because every community should be, represented. But gosh, there are no thinking people, it seems like, that are writing these I mean, I need some. Can we at least establish thinking people?
Yeah. Okay. Like, for example, we have had legal gay marriage in Indiana for several years now. Why all of a sudden then do we have to start introducing bills that say not only are we going to end the practice of legal marriage for same-sex couples, but we're going to try to void all the marriages that were done before? To me, I don't understand the thought process behind that. What do you think you're going to accomplish other than offending people?
Well, they don't care if they offend us, honey.
Well, okay, I'll give you that one.
They have been dehumanizing the LGBTQ plus community for so long. That's why, young trans kids are losing their lives because they are attacking them and belittling them and dehumanizing them. And it's
okay. I can give an example of that as a teacher. There's a new law that was passed by the supermajority that if I have a student, and this, you can tell this is meant to target trans students. If I have a student that comes to me that wants to use a different name, I have to report that to my principal, who then calls their parent to get permission for me to use that name.
And they may not even be out to their parent.
No, they may not. And I know there is a fine line to walk to protect kids because some parents are not nurturing to LGBTQ kids. No, not at all. But if you take it away just from that, think about the arguments that we can have happen because of this ridiculous law. Number one, it's taking time away from instructing kids. Number two, what if you have a child who has parents that are separated, divorced, never married, and one parent wants them to have that name and the other parent doesn't? So how are we supposed to handle that? It just seems like it's just, my husband calls it ham-handed. It's a law that's just making a lot of busy work for no reason other than to make trans kids uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Benny,
so again,
jump in
where's the
that?
thought process?
I took the words out of my mouth on all of it. I think it's spot on. It's just getting involved in ways they don't need to. And, I think a lot of it is wanting to get us distracted from a lot of issues that we can focus on and actually help people out with.
Absolutely. Okay, I forgot to put Ben's new logo up. And so y'all got to give me just 1 minute. I want to make sure that I have his right logo up. Y'all give me a minute, because see, it's important that you guys recognize the signs when you hear them, when people, when you hear their name, you see them out and you go, oh yeah, I remember this person. Did I not save it? Come on, Dana Black. Save. And on turn left. Oh, yes. A capture. Ben, give me a second. See, the beautiful part is I get to edit all this out for Twitter. Yes, I'm going to do that. And then, or I can edit it all out there we go. I want to put this in here right there because he deserves to have his full boom. All right. Now I'm happy. All right. Let's get started.
I think what's awesome about Ben is that he is so young and stepping up to do this. We need more young people involved in politics.
Say that. Yeah. Well, you know what? Since Sandy did that, Ben, tell the people who you are and where you come from. For
sure. So my name's Ben Carson, much like the other Ben Carson that we talked about a moment ago. I'm from Tippecanoe County, West Lafayette, born and raised. I'm a Hoosier. And my whole life, I've been kind of surrounded by the political space and a few other walks of life that I think have given me a lot of insight into the kinds of occupations that can have tremendous impact on other people. My dad has worked in city government for Lafayette for decades, and so I've gotten to really see the ways in which the things that he does has an impact on people. My mom worked as a nurse at Home Hospital in Lafayette for decades. So I also got to see another perspective of how one person can have a huge impact on somebody else's life and in the future of their life. My brother, who's a lawyer now and interned with Sheila Clinker way back in the day, who's much older than me, I've looked up to him my entire life. And so he really got me interested and involved from a very young age. And then my sister works for an advertising agency in New York. And so I get another perspective there for how you connect to people and how small things can make big impacts on people. So I feel really fortunate to have all of those connections that I think help me understand, how to connect to people and what kind of things are important to somebody. And that's part, I think, of why in my life, I've had really two main hats that I put on so far. One is as an educator. I've worked for a number of years teaching middle schoolers and high schoolers in public speaking and argumentation. And so I've got another unique perspective there, I think, as well, and really understanding how the new generation approaches things and how we can really try to make sure we secure a good future for them. And then I've also been working recently on a new business. I'm working on a startup in digital academic competition and education technology. So I've got a nice...
Whoa. Whew. That was a mouthful. Pause.
Sure.
Talk about what that is. Say it again, slower. And
Absolutely. So I'm working on a startup in education technology. And it is centered around speech and debate. So my business partner and I have been trying to take academic competition, which has traditionally been physical and in person, and we've been trying to take the components of video games, live streaming like this, all those kinds of things that can be fun and engaging for people, and then making it fun and engaging for a young child who wants to be in an academic competition, whether that's speech or debate or quiz bowl, math and science Olympiad, all of those things. So we're working on building that platform right now.
You are working on building a bunch of nerds, and I love it. I just got through saying we need some thinking people.
Yep.
That's right.
I love it. What? Okay, wait. What? There's so many questions. First of all, why? I mean, your talents. One of the things that I'm always concerned about is that Indiana has a serious brain drain. Why did you decide to stay home?
Well, I did participate in the drain for a small period of time. I moved to New Jersey very shortly for part of my my education career. But then I came back for a couple of reasons. One reason was just to make sure that I'm close to my family still. My mom's been going through some health problems the last few years, and so I wanted to make sure that I was, as close to her as I could. But then also, I really think that my county is, and I can't speak to other ones, but at least in my county, we've done a very good job of trying to preserve as much as we can and create good opportunities for people, really value and prioritize education, those kinds of things. Of course, going to pre-university helps that a lot as well. Mm-hmm. So I've just been really fortunate to be around a culture that is, even if the government's not reflecting it, the people in the community are reflecting the desire to stay here and be connected and value education. And so I really want to give that back to the community as well.
So basically what you're saying is that you want to take what's fun in technology and pass it on to the kids. What made you want to start a business like this? Was it something that you longed for when you were younger?
Yeah, I think I've always had some inclination towards business and startups. I had a few different jobs working with the Community Foundation of Greater Lafayette and also with Matchbox Co-working Studio. So I got to see some of the entrepreneurial side of things, and it was pretty interesting to me. I would say the primary motivator was really from the pandemic. Most of speech and debate, when I was teaching students, we did everything in person, and it was all about, face-to-face physical competitions and events, public speaking in person. The pandemic forced us to change all of that, and it resulted in middle schoolers having to be on a Zoom call, and you can barely keep adults interested in a Zoom call, let alone a 13-year-old. And so that's not fun or engaging for them. And so if that's dry and boring, then they're not going to learn anything. And so from there, it seemed to be an obvious answer, which is, well, you need to make the digital space fun and interesting because it is a huge part of the future, and you need to leverage it so that it works for people.
And what kind of successes have you had? Tell me about your successes in this program.
Yeah, successes in terms of coaching, I guess I would start with, or teaching students, is that I'm happy to say that I have coached a middle school team to be the national champions. So I'm very proud of that result. And then in terms of the project that we're working on, the beta launch is actually next month. So I can't quite talk about
That's fine.
success per se there. But we ran a few kind of test tournaments last year, and we handed out $30,000 in cash scholarships for students. So we were pretty excited about that.
Oh
Bravo.
my God. See, and okay, I can, okay, Sandy, I got to bring you in here. Got to bring you in. Sandy, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
I'm actually from Terre Haute, was born there, raised there. And then I was married when I was very young, right out of college. And my husband and I raised our kids in Johnson County. So we've been pretty much Greenwood people since '86. So forever. I actually kind of feel like I've lived a couple of different lives. I stayed home with my children when they were younger. And then as they got a little older, I went back to college to become a teacher. I was originally going to be a lawyer, but it just seemed like that would take me away from my children too much. So I fell into teaching, and it's just where I was meant to be. I love teaching. And so I've been at, like I said, Greenwood High School for 30 years. So, life one was mommy, life two is teacher. And this, I guess, is life three. I'd never been very politically active, and it was actually my daughter that is sort of my inspiration. She was very active in college with President Obama's first term. Started out as a volunteer and ended up being a paid employee with the campaign. And I just saw how much she got from that, how rewarding it was for her. So once things began to change politically, I'd always consider myself a moderate, but my dog's letting himself in.
That's all right.
I consider myself a moderate, but as the Republicans shifted things so far right, my moderate is now evidently very, very liberal. So, I watched things change. I watched the pandemic. I watched, the ignoring of science and the polarization of people in this country into these two factions that won't listen to each other. And I finally just decided that we needed a little more common sense in government. And what will be my Republican opponent, I have seen her work on and author several laws that I thought were very harmful to schools. And she ran unopposed in the last election cycle. So I decided that at least she would work for it this time and have an opponent. So like I said, it's a long route to get here, but I am close to the end of my teaching career, and this just seemed like the right time. And I thought it set a good example for my students. If you really feel that something needs to change, then you're the only one that's going to make it change.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, Sandy, you're in the classroom every day, correct?
Yes.
How do your students react to, or are they even aware of legislation that's coming through the State House? And if they are aware, how are they reacting to some of the legislation that is impacting schools?
They are aware of it to the point that they will discuss it amongst themselves and then kind of drag me into the discussions. I've tried very hard not to talk politics in school since I announced my candidacy, but they do want to talk about it, and they are aware of it. They get upset when they see things that they consider to be unfair or discriminatory. They are very, they don't ignore it. It's not something that until it affects them personally that they tend to feel like they need to do something about it. Yeah. So, but overall, I'm thrilled with this generation. I mean, they're empathetic, they are caring, and they look at things with kind of a fresh eye. They're tired of the partisan politics. They're tired of the division. They're tired of the name calling. And I think they're going to really help. I think a lot of people look at teenagers as if they don't have a lot of motivation and that they're all, stereotypically lazy. And no, they're not like that at all. These kids are going to change.
That's just projection.
It is.
Because they were lazy when they were teenagers.
Yeah. Some of these kids are going to change the world.
And I love that you are in a position where you can mold the minds of these young people. What do you teach?
My first few years, it was mostly U.S. history, but we had never offered psychology at my school. So I brought that program around, and then I expanded it so that I have dual credit psychology. And right now, that's all I teach. I have enough kids that I teach nothing but dual credit psychology with Indiana University. So my kids get They get college credit while they're in high school.
In psychology?
In psychology.
Man, these kids, yeah, I can't wait for them to take over because, you know, I ain't gonna lie, us Gen Xers, we really didn't do what we probably needed to do because that's why the boomers are still in charge or in their mind, and the millennials are like,
mind.
Yeah,
yep.
And millennials are like, move over. So we didn't do what we were supposed to do as Gen Xers, apparently. It
is interesting to see a lot of people Ben's age that are running, that we see a lot more 20-somethings. You know, I think about, I think it's Nick Roberts that ran in Indianapolis, and, you know, so many good young candidates. It's very encouraging.
Absolutely. You know, but we need that. We've got to have people who are unafraid because, I mean, golly, guys, we've seen there are literally two different types of Republicans, and they're both cowards. The one coward is going to capitulate to the maggot, you know, cult of personality. And the other coward is the one that goes away and doesn't want to get involved to help change it. Now, listen, I don't know what you're going to cause Liz Cheney, because Liz Cheney ain't a Republican anymore. They done kicked her to the curb and she's on something different. But how do you guys, and Ben jump in this conversation, how do you guys combat what we see as capitulation to, you know, what is harmful to democracy, and those that just would rather just run away and just let it play out, because silence is complicity too? Ben?
Yeah. I think one thing is that I'm really proud of our county for, in my opinion, being a really shining star of opportunity to show how other people can really be bipartisan, or even nonpartisan is maybe a different way to think about it. There's a phrase that I've heard, I had heard a few times growing up, and the more I've been talking to people and getting involved in politics, I just hear it constantly now, and for good reason, which is the phrase, the Tippecanoe way. And we have this idea in the county, the Tippecanoe way, which is that, you know, we really can put aside party politics. We really can put aside focus, you know, the national politics that we can't always affect. And it's really amazing how many people are willing to cross the aisle and support each other on policies that matter and that affect us, and to not get too encumbered with, you know, the idea of, you know, are you on the blue team or are you on the red team? Those things
why does it have to
can
be
matter, but
them all the time? Whatever happened to the art of compromise? Because that's when we advance as a society. When a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and not everybody gets their way. And I think that's what frustrates me with the supermajority, that whatever they want is passed, and there is no compromise. They don't have to capitulate. They don't have to offer a little back in return. So as a result, then, you know, all these big changes occur that hurt everybody, because there's nobody to say, hey, wait, you have to earn our votes too. So, yeah, and I like when you talk about that being the Tippecanoe way. I think I'm seeing that more in Johnson County as well. We have a Republican mayor in Greenwood, but he's very open to talking to Democrats in the county about things that are good for people in the county. So I have a lot of praise for Mayor Myers for that, because he's very good about that. And we need to get back to that. We need to stop with the punching each other in the face all the time. And we need to pull everybody in a little more toward that center, because we don't need the authoritarianism. And we need people that are willing to do what's best for everybody else, despite their religious beliefs, despite their, like you said, the cult of personality. And like you said, Liz Cheney is a very good example of that. She did what was right, regardless of what it cost her politically.
Yep.
And there are too many other people that will, like you said, stay silent or say what they think that voters want to hear, even though they know it's the wrong thing to say.
And I know that we don't, you know, one thing about my show is I very seldom talk about, you know, national politics, but the national politics and that cult of personality has trickled down into Indiana politics. And you can see it in Jim Banks. You see it in Senator Braun. You see it in the State House. Now, I will say at the county level and below, it is very, very different, because it doesn't matter if it's a Republican or Democrat, that pothole still needs to get fixed.
Yeah.
So, Indiana's own Dana Black, I am talking to Ben Carson, who is a candidate for Tippecanoe County Council at Large, and Sandy James, who's a candidate for Indiana House District 58. Guys, listen, I'm having a good time talking to these beautiful humans. Will you donate to their campaign? Will you click on their link and give them some money? Because we do turn these into fundraisers. You know, time, talent, and treasure. Bring whatever you can to help our Indiana Democrats win elections. I want to go dive down a little bit into, Ben, that county work. A lot of people don't always understand, and I had a candidate on last week who did not mind breaking down what the county council does. But talk about why, you wanted to be on the county council, and what are some of the things that you were hoping to accomplish while there?
Yeah. Well, I'll give a short version because I actually listened to the episode last week. And so I recommend anyone who really wants kind of a nerdy deep dive into the differences, I recommend listening to last week's episode because the guest you had did a great job of splitting that up. But
shout out to Steve Olin.
The very short version is simply that really at the top, you have county commissioners and a county council, and the county commissioners are the ones kind of doing the legislative and the executive, writing ordinances and so on. And the county council is kind of taking a slightly different role, and they're really just sort of involved, they're responsible for the finances. So they're the ones that are in control of the purse, so to speak. And so that's really how the breakdown works. That said, of course, you only control the purse, but the purse is quite important. So there is an interplay there, even though you're not technically someone who's responsible for policymaking, you obviously still have influence on policymaking. So there's an interesting kind of interplay there that, that allows you to really be involved in all aspects that are going to matter and going to affect the county government and the way in which the county government works with the townships and the cities as well. As for why I wanted to get involved on the county level, specifically the county level, that's a fairly easy answer for me. As probably both of you have heard, all of the news with the LEAP pipeline and all of the concerns about whether or not the water that might be taken from Tippecanoe County and the Wabash River towards Lebanon, so many citizens of our county are incredibly concerned about what the future is going to look like for our county. The reports say that they might take up to 100 million gallons of water every single day from our county towards Lebanon to help with the LEAP District project. I think it's important to add that, economic development is fantastic, and we need to have economic development, and water is a really important part of economic development, but that has to be something that's done in a responsible and accountable way. And that's really what has been missing, is the responsibility and accountability and transparency behind it and giving us that information. The IEDC has been lacking in that regard. And so that has really galvanized our county lately to get very heavily involved. And to go back to the polarization point that you were talking about earlier, the water issue has probably created one of the most interesting experiences I've seen so far in my life. One of the meetings that was held in our county to talk about the water issue, this meeting had both people who were diehard Trump supporters and then some of the most left-leaning people that you can imagine, and they were at the same event, and they were mutually agreeing on a singular issue, and we're together. And I think it might be the first and maybe the last, hopefully not the last time that I'll see something like that. But it was really fascinating to see, that we are divided, but we're not as divided as we think we are sometimes.
Exactly.
And so seeing that issue and understanding how we can cooperate with each other, and then also, trying to see how we can fix it, that's really motivated me to try to get involved in the county level.
Yeah, because those people on both sides of the aisle probably have seen Mad Max and they know what it means to run out of water.
That's right.
And so tell me about your leadership style and how you will, in those difficult situations where there's hard conversations, that you will be able to, navigate and be persuasive, and how you will learn to compromise on the issues that you need to compromise on.
Yeah, so I think there's really two things to that. One is that I think the background that I already have is a really helpful skill set. My background in speech and debate and teaching students those kinds of skills, I think, gives me the skill to listen to my constituents, take in a lot of information, and then repackage that into clear communication so that I can represent the community. It's one thing for the community to have an idea, and it's another thing for that idea to be communicated effectively. If you don't communicate effectively, then you can't accomplish what you want. And kind of going back to my family that I was talking about earlier, that's something that I've seen in many different industries. My brother is a lawyer. The effective communication is incredibly important. My sister in advertising, the communication is what makes change happen. So I think I have a good background there. And as I've been working on my new business, the same kind of principles are applying there as well. If we're trying to get customers or trying to get funding, it always comes down to communication and how you convince someone to do something. And so while it's difficult for our county to control all of it, because ultimately, sadly, a lot of it is the state government that has the final say, the state government still has to listen. And so if there's a well-packaged argument that's being presented to the state government, at some point they do have to listen. And so you can rally people around those kinds of things.
Child, I hope you're right, because them people, if you live in Indianapolis, they ain't trying to hear nothing you talking about. They will come after all of Indianapolis. And that State House, Sandy, oh my goodness, we need help there so bad. I watched those sessions and those committee meetings, and the arguments that our Democrats were making, and they were so passionate. I tip my hat to all the Democrats. When you win, and I'm hoping a few more of y'all will win, but you could be literally walking into the lion's den. How are you?
Well, okay. If you're a teacher, you kind of know what that feels like on a daily basis anyway, and Ben I'll second this. You've got a group of people that are diverse, and you have to be able to let them know how you feel. You have to be able to let them know what you expect of them. And as a legislator, I think I would be the same way. I would be very cognizant that my opinions are not matched by everybody around me. That doesn't mean I can't effectively communicate what my opinions are. That also means that they need to listen as well as try to say their own point. I would want to be, somebody who's constantly answering emails and listening to the phone calls from my constituents, because I am aware that nobody is going to agree 100% with me. I'm not there to be Sandy James. I'm there to represent Johnson County, and I need to listen to what they have to say. But you're right about the State House. They don't listen. There's a supermajority that is basically like a big bully getting its way all the time. And if we can just get, I believe it's only 5 seats in the House, we'll break the supermajority, and that's when Democratic voices will be heard, because then they do have to have Democrats to help vote for things. And it does mean that they will have to concede on certain issues, that they will not get their way 100% of the time. So it's important that Democrats get out and vote in this next election cycle. If we would all show up at the polls, especially the women. I mean, let's talk about Hoosier women for a minute. They're taking our rights away one by one by one. And we have got to get out and get some Democrats in the State House so we can stop with this ban everything to do with reproductive freedom. You've been seeing what's been happening in Alabama. You can't tell me that with Indiana being, I believe, the very first state to jump on Roe being overturned, that what's happening in Alabama is not going to happen here. They're going to come after IVF. They are going to come after birth control. They're going to come after IUDs, because it's not about the reproduction. It's about controlling the women. And Hoosier women have got to get out and have their voices heard. But if you can't, what frustrates me are people that just choose not to vote. And where Democrats are concerned, we have a version of learned helplessness. We've kind of said, and you said this earlier, Dana, that, we announced the election 2 minutes after the poll closed. No, if Democrats got out to vote, our numbers are large enough we can make changes. But it's so easy to just sit back and go, oh, the Republicans are going to win anyway. No, they don't have to. That's not a foregone conclusion.
And that's not democracy.
No, it is not. And if you want to see these changes reversed, and that would be my big thing. I believe in reproductive freedom for women. I believe that healthcare is a right that all women have. And I believe abortion is healthcare. I had an ectopic pregnancy. In some states, that would be something that a doctor might hesitate to do surgery because it would be considered an abortion and they could be in trouble for it legally.
Yeah.
You know, that is not what women should face. You should make that type of decision between you and your doctor. And the legislature does not need to be a part of it. So I am very strongly for, you know, let's enshrine some rights to women's health care in Indiana. You know, I think that we need to change some of the bad things that have happened in our schools. And as an educator, I feel like I'm a good candidate to be on the education committee, to try to get our schools to be stronger, to return, you know, some of the power to local school boards instead of having it micromanaged by the legislature.
Absolutely.
So,
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the next topic. You know, one of the things that we've been seeing lately, not just the taking of women's rights and parents of trans kids, because they want to say parental rights, but only if you have straight cisgender kids. One of the things that we're seeing also is this desire, and effectively doing it, the State House removing local control. Both
yes.
of you would be impacted by this, in that, Ben, some of the things that you guys may want to do at the county level, the State House will just write a piece of legislation that says, no, you can't do it. And Sandy, you're going to be in the State House talking about, please don't do it. Talk to me how, you guys are also teachers. You talked about history. History is about knowing the facts and understanding the government. And you talked about speech and debate, and it's being able to, politics is always about being able to make an effective argument. Please talk to me. How are you feeling about the State House working so diligently to take away local control? Ben, I'm gonna start with you.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the sad part, which is that, you're right, and it's already happening. Even something as simple as our county recently passed an ordinance that was basically a puppy mill ban, which is great. And then moments later, the state government passed their own version that supersedes ours and says, never mind, whatever you wanted to pass doesn't matter anymore. It's a strange repeating pattern of, a party that seemingly likes small government and putting the power in the people's hands, letting them make their own choices for their own people, their own community, and then they're taking those things away from them. So that's the sad part. The good part is that we do know that these things can be overturned. I think to kind of connect the reproductive rights conversation that we were just talking about, while it's a shame that Roe v. Wade was overturned, the silver lining in this is that we saw during the midterms and last year's municipal election that this galvanized a lot of voters in certain states, and they came out and they voted, and they turned seats that you would not have expected to have been turned otherwise. And so it may not always happen immediately the next day. It may not happen this election cycle. But if people can get galvanized to vote, and I think it's a trend that we're seeing overall, then we can replace them, and we can put the power back in local communities, give people the freedom that they actually deserve. And then that's a way forward that can actually work if people are willing to fight for it.
Well, and I think we also need to start with maybe some referendums. I think that, if you're going to want something like abortion rights in a state with a Republican supermajority, then take it away from them and let it go to the people. Let their voices be heard. Do we want to enshrine, health care for women?
We got to do a whole constitutional amendment for that here in Indiana.
That's true. But I find it ironic that they believe everybody, like you're saying, they say they're the party of what people want and less government. But every time it's been on a referendum in any state, they immediately get upset because the referendum says, hands down, even in conservative places like Ohio, we want abortion rights. So I think that the legislature needs to stop the stranglehold on everything in the state and return things very slowly back to local municipalities. And I think it should be up to school boards to maintain curriculum decisions rather than the state.
I think also what they are really missing out on, and I ain't gonna lie, I'm a little butthurt that they come after Indianapolis the way they do, especially since, honestly, we are the economic hub of this entire state. How Indianapolis goes is how the rest of the state goes. And it's not even about what the people want. It's about control. It's not even about small government anymore. It's about control.
Because Indianapolis has a Democratic mayor.
Well, it's not just a Democratic mayor. All of our county electeds are Democrat. We have a supermajority on our city county council. And that's because that's what the people want. And so they don't want us to have what it is that we voted for. And that's where I have a major issue. But more importantly, they are literally stifling growth because they want to limit what these municipalities and counties can do. Because no one knows what your county needs better than the people in it. That's an open.
Yeah, agree.
Go ahead, y'all. It's not a new trend. I feel sorry for Lake County and Gary in particular, Marion County and Indianapolis. It's just every time, we literally just had the NBA All-Star weekend that was bringing in billions of dollars, and that clown wants to pass, no bus lanes. And it's like, bro, we're bringing
following that. That was ridiculous. I don't understand if it's a, I guess maybe one way I might look at it, maybe because I teach psychology, I'm always analyzing people's motives. I think maybe a lot of what we're seeing with the supermajority in the legislature, it may be that they're starting to get the way the wind is shifting. And as a result, they are trying to pass a lot of things this session because they know that there's a good possibility they will not have a supermajority next session.
Interesting. Ben, you were about to jump in.
Yeah, no, that was a really good point. I think that's on the money. And then speaking of money, I mean, there's so many different ways you can criticize the bills they're passing. And another one is just that it's bad business. I mean, you can put aside, some of the moral positions that you may or may not have on some of the issues, but think of all the people who don't want to come to Indiana for business if they don't have reproductive rights. It's another issue that seems like a no-brainer. That we should be able to come together and understand, what's going to drive economic development, what's going to make a community want to be together, want to be involved and grow. And unfortunately, that's not always reflected in the State House. But fortunately, there are some smaller levers that can be pulled locally as well.
I love it. Guys, one of the cool things about doing this show is that I get to do what I want to do. It's my show. And typically I will ask leading questions about, what are the issues that you're running on, blah, blah, blah. But this conversation has been so free flowing and wonderful. You have interjected everything that I would normally ask. You guys have been like so fun to talk to. Can y'all believe it's 6:57?
Oh, it went fast.
I mean, like,
if I didn't take it.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, if I take a guess, it might have to do with our teaching background. I think we have a lot of experience in kind of thinking about, what is a student going to ask or what is a student trying to get at? So we have a lot of experience thinking about, rounding all of those edges. Yeah.
Well, and how to get your point across effectively.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think y'all did a fantastic job of chatting with us here on Turn Left. I know, Ben, that you want to protect the water in Tippecanoe County. And I know, Sandy, if it ain't education, it's reproductive health care, reproductive rights and health care. I know everything and why you guys are doing, and you want to end that supermajority. I understand exactly why you guys are running, and I believe in you. And you guys have a way that you just drew me in, and I wanted to hear more from you. So that being said, Sandy, tell the people where they can find you.
I have a website. It's VOTE for the number Sandy, SANDY.com. I'm on Facebook. I am on the site formerly known as Twitter. I am on Instagram, and I occasionally put out a TikTok. I'm going to start doing some recordings, very educational recordings on government in general. So hopefully I'll be on TikTok.
And do you have any events coming up?
We actually have a candidates night where Jennifer McCormick, Valerie McCrae, they're coming to meet at a local tavern. I don't have the flyer with me. I really wish I do. And my friends are going to be mad at me I didn't have it. But if they go to Vote for Sandy on Facebook or Vote for Sandy on Twitter, you can find the date and the location. It's a free gathering for a lot of Democratic candidates to meet people.
I love it. Love it. Ben, tell the people where they can find you.
Well, first, a very quick kudos to Sandy for being more millennial than me. She has more TikToks than I do.
I don't have any TikToks either.
I should probably get onto that at some point. My dad keeps telling me he's probably going to, after he watches this, he's going to, say I told you so. But in terms of where to find me, believe it or not, the other Ben Carson, I don't think cared very much about winning his campaign. I was able to secure a lot of different domain names that have Ben Carson or Vote Carson in the name, much to my surprise. So my website is votecarson.com or votecarson.org. They both go to the same place for me. And then on Facebook, you can just type facebook.com/vote Ben Carson, and that'll take you right to my page as well.
And do you have any events?
Well, I'm sorry. My husband just texted me to make sure I had it. It's going to be at Mashcraft Brewing on Wednesday, the 20th.
Way to go, husband. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Having a good partner during a campaign makes all the difference in the world. I promise you.
My husband, Brian, has been amazingly supportive, and I thank him for that every day.
And Ben, do you have any events coming up?
I do. I have a kind of late launch event that I'm planning for the end of March. I don't have the full details yet, but for anyone who wants to know about the full details, if they just go on facebook.com/vote Ben Carson, there will be an event post there pretty soon.
I love it. You know what? You two are a prime example of why we ought to elect more teachers.
Thank you.
I am here
I agree with that.
and get you guys elected into office and maybe teach them people a thing or two about government, because apparently they don't understand the different levels and home rule and all of that other stuff. All right, hang on, don't hang up. But I want to do something, guys. My heart is heavy tonight. A good Democrat we had to say goodbye to. Let me explain this to y'all. Those of us that are in this fight and that do this work, we eventually form a bond with each other, be it because we end up going to the same fundraising events or the same parades, or we're at the same political events, at the debates. We end up becoming a family. And this is a family that actually transcends race and gender and identity and religion, because we believe, as Democrats, we believe that, everyone should have access to the American dream. We don't always agree on everything, and I'm not trying to say that, but we believe in the work. And when you work so hard, you create a family. And having to say goodbye to Aaron Shaler is hard. I did not want to talk about it before my guest came on, because I felt like my guest deserved to get the best me that they possibly could get. But it is with heavy hearts and profound sadness we share the news of the passing of our dear friend Aaron Shaler. Aaron's unexpected departure has left a void in our hearts as we mourn the loss of a beautiful soul who touched the lives of all who had privilege of knowing him. Aaron was more than just a friend. He was a source of light and joy, radiating warmth, kindness, and love to everyone he encountered. His infectious laughter, compassionate spirit, and unwavering friendship endeared him to all who crossed his path, leaving a lasting impact on our lives and our hearts. As we come to terms with Aaron's passing, we extend our deepest condolences to his family and loved ones. Our thoughts and prayers are with them during this difficult time as they navigate through the pain of losing someone so dear to them. Details of the arrangements for Aaron's memorial service will be shared soon by his loving and amazing family, who are undoubtedly reeling from the profound loss of their beloved son, brother, and friend. In the meantime, we join together in remembering the countless memories and moments we shared with Aaron, finding solace in the love, laughter he brought to our lives. And Aaron's passing serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of treasuring each moment spent with loved ones. Though he may no longer be with us in person, his spirit will forever live on in the memory and hearts of all who were touched by his kindness, compassion, and friendship. In honor of Aaron Shaler, let us remember the joy, laughter, and love he brought into our lives and the impact he had on those around him. May his memory be blessed. May his memory be a blessing to all of us. And may we strive to honor his legacy by living each day with kindness, compassion, and love. Rest in peace, dear Aaron. Your beautiful spirit will forever be cherished, and your memory will continue to inspire us to be the best versions of ourselves. And until we meet again. This obituary is from Popular Obits Reports. But I got to just say, Aaron and I had been talking all winter long about what we were going to do for the Biden campaign and how we were going to chuck it up in Chicago at the DNC. And he was like, I don't care if Act Blue sends you, I don't care if Wish TV or you're a delegate, you just come and stay with me. That was Aaron. He was excited about his life. And he was so much fun. And he was catty. I mean, look, homeboy was so catty that he had to mess up my Women's History Month just to let everybody know he was still the king of queens, honey. Oh, I loved Aaron. He got to know my partner and fell in love with her, and she fell in love with him. He was friends of my besties, the Allens. He touched my life in so many different ways. And I'm through Pam Hickman and Trish Wickham and Russ Sipes and Mary Klinkos and all the people that we are now all family because of the interactions we have in this political space. Our hearts are broken because it was so unexpected. Guys, I need you to check on each other. Do not miss an opportunity to love on each other. Do not miss an opportunity to say kind words. One of the things Aaron would say to me every time we got off the phone, I love talking to you because you just make me feel better. And he would just make me feel so much better about all the journeys that I would be on. And he was so non-judgmental. Oh my God. He lived in the gym and I had gained so much weight. And he was like, girl, you still look good, girl. What? I miss my Aaron. So as my heart is heavy tonight, I want to just give just a brief moment of silence for my dear, dear, dear friend, Aaron Shaler. Thank you. And of course, I've got more shows coming on in the coming weeks. I will holler at y'all next time. Peace. Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.